Hello there, Maverick Currency traders. This is Rob. I'm joined by August Sharma. This is the Currency Room, and August is done. With the month being closed, we will take balances over the weekend, and with the holiday coming up, it's going to bump everything back. So we will be doing the accounting on Tuesday. We're going to be doing payouts on Wednesday, and level advancements will now be on Thursday. So great job, everyone, this month, and we got even a better trading month ahead. In this session, we're going to be going over what happened this week. We're going to be looking at the broad markets. We're going to be taking a look at some commodities. And then, of course, we're going to break everything down from a +3 to a -3. And that's going to tell us where to hunt. We're going to pit the strongest currencies against the weakest, and those are going to be our trade setups.
Disclaimer. This video was created for professional Forex and crypto traders. Maverick Currencies is a proprietary trading firm that employs professional traders around the world. Our traders trade firm capital and keep 70 to 80% of profits they generate. All trades and analysis in this video are for professional traders only. If you are interested in becoming a professional Forex and currency trader for Maverick, click the apply button in the video description. Let's get ready for next week.
Let's break down last week, and really let's start off with the equity markets. The equity markets didn't go anywhere. We basically are holding in a basing pattern. Typically, August is my least favorite month of trading for the entire year. August is usually low volume, low volatility. This August was actually really good. The first half of this August was phenomenal. It was a great trading month. However, this last week was exactly what I don't like about August. You're going to see that nothing really moved all that far. There was only a couple of pairs that you could have made any decent money at. I'm very happy for August to be done because the trading always picks up after the Labor Day U.S. holiday. We did see the dollar bounce this week. The chances of a 50 basis point cut are starting to come off the table. We talked about this, I think, either last week or the week before, how the market was likely, as Ankit said, getting ahead of himself, pricing in possibly 4 rate cuts by the end of the year. That moved the dollar down sharply in August, and then you can see we're paring back those bets and the dollar's having a little bounce. That being said, the dollar is still in a bearish territory. And cryptos sell off. Cryptos have not been looking good lately, and Ethereum has been looking worse than all of them combined. As far as economic reports go, let's take a look at CPI out of Australia. It was hotter than expected, but the Aussie didn't move up. This is something we stress at Maverick. When news comes out and something should happen, but it doesn't, like it just doesn't, or it goes the other way, it tells you that's where this is going. The fact that the Aussie did not go higher on this news tells me that Aussie's not in play on the long side. We also got some news out of the US. The GDP report was revised higher. 3% GDP, that's a very strong number. The equity markets like that number. It's telling everyone that, hey, the economy is still in decent shape, at least in the US. Then we got Canadian GDP that was weaker than expected. So we're going to be taking a look at the dollar CAD cross here because the US economy is much stronger than pretty much any other economy across the world. If we go in and take a look at the actual numbers for last week, you're going to see that it was a flat to down week. The S&P was down 0.5%. That's like nothing. The Qs were down 1.5%. The Qs are definitely underperforming. So the big trade in technology, the big AI trade, it definitely is on the back foot here. We did get earnings from NVIDIA this week, and there was a huge buildup into the earnings of NVIDIA. There was priced in to be about a $14 move in the underlying of NVIDIA. NVIDIA basically went nowhere after earnings. So if you were short volatility, that was a good trade. The earnings were really good, but just not good enough. So people weren't really super excited about it, but people weren't disappointed also. Again, another reason why we just hung out in the base that I'm going to show you here in just a second. We're going to take a look at the crypto market. This number's incorrect, but you will see that crypto's got absolutely crushed this week. And gold and oil down as well. So as I said, just a slightly down week, but if we take a look at the S&P chart, we can see it's just a base. We had this huge run. You would expect that after a huge run, you get a base. And a lot of times the length of the base is equal to the length of the run as far as days. So I'm counting here, it's about 12 days of a run, and we put in about 8 or 9 days going sideways. So I think that next week, I think it's very highly likely that we do break out to the upside after the Labor Day holiday. Ankit, what do you think about that call? A breakout after Labor Day?
Absolutely. That's one of the things that I'm looking for going to next week. As we get this volatility back after the Labor Day weekend, this is again where we need that conviction of that breakout. So I think it's setting up nicely for next week. But I also want to highlight that we are also have a lot of data coming on next week. So I think next week is a bit of a combination of news events, combination of where we are technically. It's really brewing up to be either a big week next week, either on the upside on a breakout, or we get a big fake breakout and it falls back. We'll find out, but I think we are setting up nicely going into the next week.
Thanks, Ankit. Taking a look at the movement in the Forex market. When you take a look at this, these look like decent moves here. Like, yen and euro went down 0.8%. Remember, typically, really good trading days, we have movements of 1% in currencies. On a good trading week, we have moves of like 1.5%, 2%, sometimes even 3%. These moves, you can see, are just not very big. And that's what I'm talking about when I talked about August trading. Typically, we see lower numbers like this. On the upside, we had the dollar up 0.5%, CAD up just a little bit more, and the Kiwi. You have to be really in the right stuff. I took a trade, only one trade this week on Euro Swiss franc, and it didn't really go anywhere. I have a very small loss. I'll close it out by the end of the week. But I did talk about Euro Kiwi, and I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to go for Euro Swiss franc instead of Euro Kiwi. Euro Kiwi was a decent trade for the second half of the week, and I know I did see a few of our traders caught that, so great job. Over in the cryptos here, you can see this is where some pain was felt. Basically 10% across the board except for Litecoin. Litecoin has been outperforming the rest of the cryptos really for the last 2 weeks. Now that being said, outperforming just means not going down as much. That's it. There's really nothing good going on in crypto. We're going to take a look at the crypto basket as a whole, and you're going to see what I'm talking about. So we already took a look at the S&P. So equities, Ankit and I both agree that we have a high base here that's likely to break higher. And in fact, if you take a look at this chart, this is the RSP. The RSP is the ETF that equally weights all the 500 stocks in the S&P 500. What this means is it basically is taking out the huge numbers of Apple, Microsoft, Tesla, Nvidia, and basically making all the components the same. You can see on this chart, we've already broken out higher. It's why I don't see any reason why the S&P doesn't break higher, because the RSP is already broken higher. We take a look over here at the bond market, and you can see we are just trading in a range. And I've been talking about this 3.7 to 4.0 area. This area is just perfectly fine and will likely trade between this area for the foreseeable future. If we do go above 4, that's when I'm going to start noticing and talking about the bond market. And here's the crypto market. And I came out and said that, hey, it's starting to look interesting. We had been going sideways here. We popped out and I said, hey, give me a breakout, then a pullback, and then a break higher. And it did not do that. It came up, touched these moving averages, and collapsed to lower than the breakout point. And now you can see that you're getting resistance up in this area. Cryptos are just not good at the moment on the long side. Ankit, you talked about some big news this week, and I totally agree, and we've got a ton of stuff. So starting off at the top, we've got CPI report out of Switzerland on Tuesday. So take a look at Sunday, Monday. There is nothing on the calendar. The US, Canadian markets are closed. Some of the European markets are going to be very, very low volatility. I don't think you should even look at trading until Tuesday, until the European Open on Tuesday. I don't think it makes any sense at all to be active in the markets. I don't think there's going to be a lot going on. We've got that Swiss CPI. And then you can see later that day we got Australian GDP. Two good reports I think are going to put some energy into the markets. And then we have the Bank of Canada on Wednesday. So they are forecasted to cut 25 basis points. The CAD has come down over the past couple months. It's had a little bounce up. This will be interesting for a trade. And I do like CAD here. I haven't traded CAD in probably 3 months. I can't even remember the last time I traded CAD. It's on my radar for this week for sure. And then in the middle of the week, we don't have not a ton that really is going to move markets. But on Friday, we've got Canadian and US employment reports. Those are going to be good market movers as well. So Tuesday, Wednesday morning look really good. And then Friday looks like a really good period of time to be active in trading. As always, check the news. Make sure you know what is going on with the currencies that you're trading. We're going to go through all these currencies one by one, break them down with a trend score and a velocity score to tell us where to really focus this week. Now, cryptos as a whole are just untradeable at the moment. Now, look, if you can go short cryptos, there's probably some opportunity to go short crypto. But here at Maverick with Interactive Brokers, we can only go long crypto. So there is nothing to talk about here. The best you could say is Bitcoin isn't terrible. That's literally all you can say is, okay, well, it tried to break out here. It failed miserably. We went right back into this range here. It's stuck in this range at best, and at worst, it's breaking down. Not interested. And then we can just go through the rest, and you can see they all look worse. Ethereum never even got up above its 50-day moving average. And here we have Litecoin. As I said, it's holding in. It's holding in. It's just, there's no reason at all to be excited about buying here. I mean, there's just no reason here. Likely, we're going to see a move lower here across the board on cryptos. So, Ankit, I'm going to be very clear on that, and I have been clear. I don't think there should be any early crypto entries this week unless something dramatically changes. Go find us something in Forex Market that we can take a look at.
Absolutely. So let's just get started with the almighty US dollar. And again, this chart, I must say, went from a zero, a +1 to -3 really quick. And you can see that we are hitting a key support level. And I don't have a chart zoomed out, but if you are watching this, just go back and take a look at the chart, zoom out on the daily chart, and you notice that this is a key level of support. So no surprise to me that we are finding some support, some sort of uh, bounce here on the support level, but just keep in mind that we are still in this downtrend. So we are seeing the velocity picking up today, and throughout the week, it just stayed weak. As you can see, that this is not a strong bounce. But for the shorter term, velocity has definitely turned the corner in the last 24 hours. So going to next week, I think if you're looking for a short dollar trade, you want to hold off of that one because it is sort of in a climb in the shorter term. We can get towards that 20-day moving average before we retest and have a bear rally. So this is still a bear rally. So for now, we are in this recovery here. That's where we are. Now, if you take a look at the yen, and I think this is again an interesting timing as things are turning because as the dollar is bouncing, we finally giving up that level. So I talked about how this consolidation phase for the last few days, dollar has been under pressure and Swiss franc has been steady. You can see that how that's changing. The yen is now giving up that level, and again, now the trend score went from a +2 now to a 0. So this is where a lot of trend score changes are happening to this week. So going to next week, I think yen looks more weaker than it looks stronger. So maybe the dollar yen trade is something we got to watch out for going next week. And even today, that trade jumped up about 146 level after getting down towards 143. So big sort of a recovery there. Now, if you take a look at the Swiss franc, and this is a bit of a disappointing price action, as you can see that this thing has gone up very quickly, but hasn't really come down as quick. Just sideways. It looks very similar to looking at the yen. It's just sideways until we break. Remember, that's the timing we're looking for. We don't want to jump on this one. It just continue going bouncing back and forth. Now, if you go into the European currencies like the euro, and you can see that this is where that weakness was all week. I know dollar was pretty weak, but along with the dollar, take a look at the euro. And We have noticed the euro and the dollar kind of working in tandem as they're both either going stronger or weaker at the same time. You can see this thing is definitely on the weaker side here. So going into next week, again, I do like more euro short than the long ones. But for now, definitely a big change in that trend score. As you can see, the moving averages were sideways. This was a sideways play for the longest time, and now it's turned bearish. So something to keep an eye on going next week. Now, if you take a look at the pound, as you can see, this is where a lot of the recovery that we have seen has sort of stalled. And pound is one of the ones. You can see it's stuck between that 20 and the 50-day moving average. It's finding that footing to really break out higher. So at this point, the strength score, it's a zero. I mean, we are not as bullish. We had a big recovery. Now we're just having a hard time having a follow through. So just gotta make a note that until we really break out of that range, so draw the lines of the range, set up an alert, and you don't want to be trading this until it really breaks out of the range one way or the other. So that's where we are with the pound. Now, CAD is the one that was, again, being very underperformer. It was a -3 for the longest time. Now it's come down to zero. You can see that velocity is picking up, which is along the side of what the dollar is doing. Just want to highlight that next week we have Bank of Canada that's expected to cut rates by 25 basis points. But personally speaking, I think that's already priced into the price action. So we'll see what the statement says. But right now, it looks more like a recovery to me than it looks like it wants to go lower. So wanna actually focus on this carefully for the Bank Canada rate statement. Now, let's talk about another currency that stalled around with that recovery, and that's the Aussie. This looks very similar to the pound that we just looked at. We had a big recovery, just went sideways. In between that, we had markets. This again looks more like what the equity markets are doing. It's consolidating. So we'll find out which way it breaks. But yeah, this thing is stuck right there in the middle, not breaking or higher or lower. So along with the pound, this goes on the list as the one to watch out for a possible breakout. And then lastly, we have the Kiwi, which again, I talked about it last week too, how Aussie and Kiwi are diverging. And that's exactly what's going on here. This thing is now above the 20, the 50, and it's a +2. And you can see that even the velocity chart, it pulled back, and now it's just going sideways. So it looks tired to me, but at the same time, I think there's definitely that divergence going on between the Aussie and the Kiwi, which I think will likely continue playing out going into next week. So that's really where we are at. Lots of changes in the trend scores, and we have to really look for that shift when we go to next week. Back to you, Rob.
And thank you, Ankit. And I've got to say that, I'm always very excited for Labor Day because I don't love August trading. August trading is usually pretty boring. And then we get some excitement after Labor Day. I was feeling all this excitement until I did these scores and realized there's not a great trade here because let me just show you where we are. We have one currency at the moment showing bullishness. That's it. And we've got some currencies showing bearishness. So all the cryptos and the euro and the dollar. Look at this. Everything else is at a zero. Now the question is it a zero meaning it's not going anywhere, it's going sideways, or is it a zero meaning it's just a stopover from going from a -3 to a +3, or a +3 to a -3? So if we take a look at which ones are probably just pausing here, I would point out the pound and the Aussie. To me, we had that big recovery at the bottom. They're going sideways. As Ankit said, they look more like the equity markets. If the equity markets break out, I do want to keep an eye on the pound and the Aussie. I also think that CAD is starting to look very interesting as well. So this is where I want to be focusing, but that doesn't mean they're ready to trade now. So sadly, these are the currencies that I think are going to end up being +1s, +2s by the end of the week. But right now, I can't just trade them based on my opinion. I've got to see the price action. Euro and dollar, no question, they are the weakest ones here, but they're having a bounce as well. So starting off the week, I really don't like anything. And then if you take a look at velocity score, this is just what I was talking about. So we have the two weakest currencies up here as two of the three of the strongest on the velocity score, a shorter term score. And then our strong ones, the ones we like, are showing relative weakness. It's really just not a good setup. Remember, we like to get everything moving the same direction. If you remember in our training, we had, a daily chart, a 4-hour chart, and a 1-hour chart. And we had elevators or escalators all going up. You want all of these escalators to be going up the same time, all these time frames, and we are just not getting that this time. So I'm just going to take a look at a few charts. None of them are going to be for early in the week. They're all going to be for later in the week. I want to start off with the premise of I'm looking at pound, Aussie, and CAD. I really want to start off with which one right now is the strongest. If I take a look at pound CAD, I'm going to go down to a 4-hour chart here. If I go down to a 4-hour chart and I say, okay, which one of these currencies would I rather be long? As you can see, the pound is actually weakening against the CAD. So the CAD is stronger than the pound. And then if I pair it up against the Aussie, as you can see, they've been mostly sideways, but short term, the Aussie's been weaker than the CAD. So for me, the CAD goes up on the top of the list. And then I can go and do the same thing with the euro and the dollar. Like, what is weaker at the moment? The euro or the dollar? And the answer is the euro. So my favorite trade for the week is going to be Euro CAD. I'm going to start out here with the daily chart. You can see we've been having an up move that has absolutely been reversed. We've got some, support has been broken down here over the last week or two. Where are we going next? Maybe down to this 149 area. If we break down below that, next stop is going to be 148. So there's definitely some room in here for continued fall. But right here, right now, it's definitely just in, I don't want to call it free fall, but pretty close to free fall. If I am a shorter term trader, this trade looks fine here. We've got, let's see, 8 candles here. So we've got almost 2 days of basing. We're looking to break down here. 149. Once it breaks that, I think it's going to go down to 148. This is the pair I like. I just, we got the Bank of Canada on Wednesday. We've got all these cross currents happening. We have equities that may or may not break out. I like trading in the back half of the week much better. So this is my really one trade I want to take a look at, EuroCAD. What do you want to take a look at?
Hey, Rob. Well, I'm in the same boat as you that, I'm not looking to jump right in the first half of the week. I like things more in the second half of the week, and we have the reason why, because things are kind of stuck in the range. We have the dollar recovery that we can go after, and we can take a look at euro dollar, which is along the same line as euro CAD. And again, that would be on the premise that if the dollar is in a recovery mode compared to that, they can see that this thing gave up all the gains from last Friday. We are all the way down below the support. So this thing easily can get towards that 109.20. So this one, Rob, goes on the top of the list as well for me. The other one is the Aussie Kiwi. I talked about it last week, and you can see that again based on the trend. This thing is just closing at the lower for the week. You can see that this thing is more consistently going to the downside. So I still like this touching that 107.50 area as the next level support. So that's one of the reasons why going to next week, if I have to go long, it has to be the CAD, a Kiwi over the Aussie, because that's really where the relative strength and weakness is. But these are the two that I'm looking at. But outside of that, dollar yen, Rob, you're going to take a look at that one. I had a lot of questions about that because, again, recovering, making some progress here. So I think that if you are or have been kind of going towards the shorting end of that dollar yen, for the shorter term, as it gets above the exponential moving average and parabolics are, this can get a little bit more in a recovery mode here, getting towards that 148 to 150. I can easily see this make that recovery, especially if we get some decent data out of the U.S. next week, because right now markets are discounting so much of that rate cut and the pressure that we're getting. If those eases off and if the data is better, I think the dollar definitely has room to run. And I think for that comparison, we can take a look at euro dollar or even dollar yen would be good candidate for me. That's all I got, Rob. Back to you.
And I just want to point out that range-bound trading is just perfectly fine. We focus a lot on trend trading here at Maverick, and rightfully so. That's where the edge has always been shown to be. But you can do range-bound trading, and looking at this trade, There is enough meat on this bone to make a really nice trade here. So it's at 146. I mean, this could easily get to 149. That's 300 pips. That is a nice return here. Not that you're going to get the top and the bottom, but in 300 pips, there is a ability to grab, 100 pips in here on this trade. If you just want to be a range-bound trader saying, hey, we've got some really good support here. It just hit it twice, probably going back up to the top of the range. I think this is a perfectly fine trade to be in as we wait for things to get a little bit more trending in one direction or the other. Remember, Sunday, Monday are likely to be very, very light. Not a lot of movement, not a lot of activity. Starting on Tuesday, we start to get some more activity. Tuesday, Wednesday should be good, and then Friday should be good as well. So pick your shots this week, and I wish I was able to be a little bit more enthusiastic because usually we've had a pretty boring August, and then after Labor Day, it gets to be really good. I think it's going to take a couple of days before we get to where it's good again. So just be patient, pick your shots, wait for it. There's going to be great setups later in the week. Don't blow it early in the week, getting a little bit aggressive, and then you get gun shy for the good trades later in the week. Keep your powder dry and take your shots when you see them. That is Currency Room. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great weekend. Goodbye, everyone.